Hey, Ram.
Hello, hello.
Did you see that chat with Steve and Andy?
Is Andy joining? Because he had a small demo to give, I believe, and I have one too. So
Oh, you do? Okay. Um, wait, you mean Alex or Andy?
no, Alex.
Alex wasn't sure.
Okay, no, I was talking about Andy.
Yeah,
Alex.
Andy said he can only join if there's a dial-in, he said, which I don't know if there is.
Oh, okay. There should be one. Let's check.
Yeah,
I can.
I didn't see either. Did you guys meet the week of Thanksgiving or the week before? Was that the
No, I just showed up, but I didn't expect a lot of people to show up here, so it's all right. Oh, how do I do it? This is bizarre. Okay,
yeah,
summary.
dial-in, but couldn't find anything.
This is crazy. Okay, so yeah, okay, so invite caller ID name. So there is a caller ID that it says invitee name, phone number. If Andy's number is there, he can call, but or he can, if he has a number, we can reach out, invite.
Oh, this invite thing?
I see that, but otherwise, let's see if I can get him. It says 669 900 6833.
Oh yeah, I see it there. Okay. So just paste it
Uh,
into the paste it into
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. Meeting ID is 727 678 3015, and passcode is 77757. Yep, I think that's all there is.
let's just paste it in.
Yeah, so that he can dial in.
There we go. I just pasted the whole invite in. So I guess, Ram, let's talk about how things are going. I don't see a ton of people coming here. It could be that we need to re-up the invite because I don't even see folks like Kyle and Brandon who usually come.
Yeah, so I think I should say this one is probably on me. I should probably put out these meeting invites maybe a day or two in advance with an agenda. That is when people get more informed, right? And then they can join. Yeah, this one is on me. So I was actually not sure if people would join in this last week of December with the holidays coming in. So
In 2 weeks, probably. Yeah, you might struggle. But yeah, it seems like this week folks might have come. Hey,
Steve said he got there is Brandon. Okay, hi Brandon. Thanks for joining.
yeah, so I wanted to check with you, Ram, and everybody. How are things going? Towards our some of those initial deliverables. I think we wanted to gather up patterns from OCI and from other package managers. How's that going? How do you feel about everything?
I think we have to set. So this is this. I've been thinking about this, right? So the simplest way to attack that particular problem is, can we describe what this working group is attempting to achieve in, say, 3 words or 5 words?
Mm-hmm.
If we can do that, then I think we have a direction to set, concrete direction to set. So one of the earliest requirements was, this is coming from Steve also, that the immediate use case is the ability to search across these various ecosystems, so that you can surface some important metadata, and then we can sort of do better housekeeping on these things, right? So that is, and this better housekeeping already, I mean, technically it is not, may not be that challenging, but in terms of impact, it is very high impact. So that was the, yeah, so there you go.
Is that right? So is the ultimate goal
across, I would say across software ecosystems is probably the right thing, because a lot of these things will end up, some of this will end up in OCI artifacts, but the problems are not unique to OCI, right? Okay, so
in terms of that, and then I'm just clarifying, Ram. So in terms of that, then we said to do that, we need to gather up the patterns for all of the existing package managers, and that's where we're at.
That's correct. Yes.
And how are we? It seems to me like we're making slow but steady progress on that. How do you feel?
The slow and steady progress, I agree. So right now we have sort of curated all the package managers and what their capabilities are in terms of whether they can even, so let's say if we propose something, are they even willing to listen to what we are saying? And that will happen only if you know whether those package managers have this capability inherently or not. So that the delta jump that they have to make is very small. The less work the people have to do, the more receptive they are usually, right? So yeah, that's what we are trying to achieve here. Okay, let me just make sure.
Got it. So our ultimate goal is to be able to search attributes in a standard way across all kinds of package types, and to achieve that, we're trying to curate those package formats and understand where they are today in achieving this.
That's correct.
Got it. Do we think, I guess my next question is, do we think we could create an initial report of some sort, maybe by KubeCon Paris, just to kind of let people know what we're doing and, you know, pick up some momentum? Or is...
Yes, and that is, so let me share. Please share my screen.
Cool. That was my last question. So if that would be great if we could, because that I think we'll, yeah, I think it'll be great to show some momentum.
So this is the, at least some of the things that we are filling it out, right? So on what these capabilities are, and I think this is still an incomplete list. We have to fill it out properly, but this is telling us what the state of affairs is, in terms of the criteria we care about, and the current state of the package management systems, right? Including OCA. So there are a couple of patterns here, right? So one thing is, we don't know how these individual things are maintained currently, how receptive they will be to changes, whether they are complete in terms of the requirements for us, and so on and so forth. The second thing that happens is, even if a particular package management system is unable to make any changes, the way we can tackle that is we can convert one package into another. For example, you can change Debian to RPM, and maybe that works for us. That pattern works for us, and so on and so forth. So that's where we are at. And if we are basically able to convince people that yes, by standardizing these query interfaces, then there is value, because then the across ecosystems you'll be able to surface all this metadata in a standard way. Then I think people will be receptive to this. So OCA already has one of the outstanding requirements is, how do you incorporate search in OCI, right? So there is an issue that's open, and we haven't tackled that yet. Maybe Brandon can comment on that. Okay, so let me. Sorry, Brandon.
I was going to ask what the question was again, and maybe someone else jump in.
The question is search in the distribution spec.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. I don't know where that would be in terms of timeline. Everything in OCI is notoriously slow.
Yeah. Yes, and controversial. Everything is controversial. Okay, so
And I was just
hi, Steve.
folks, we were just going over, I was talking with Ram, just basically a state of the working group kind of review. Yeah, and we were just saying that we think we can have something deliverable around this work perhaps by late March, KubeCon Paris. I guess if you don't mind, Ram, I'm gonna bring up that Alex is asked to step back a little bit. He's still interested in what we're working on, but he has to step back a little bit. So we should seek another working group lead to support Ram Kumar. I want to put that out there. If you want to do it, let us know. I guess I should pitch it more. It's a great opportunity to contribute to the community, to learn from folks, to be, to show leadership, and to influence this initial report that we're going to try to get out. Yeah, back to you, Ram.
Yeah, so I just wanted to so I think the immediate step is actually to fill this information out a little bit better, and to promote this particular document into the front page, so that people understand where the state of the research at least is, and where we are going, right? So this page it needs a little bit of work. Okay, so that I'll take that as an action item. So one thing I wanted to bring up was about the homebrew package management system. So this has actually came as a surprise to me. So homebrew is this whole Linux distro that works on Mac, and what they have actually done is, which is quite interesting, is they have built all their packages as OCI images. So which means that and they're all their OCI images, and I don't know why that happened, and it seems to be around for a while, but this was news to me. So we have a tool called Stacker that we use internally. So what this opens up in terms of possibilities is, you can sort of build an application like this. So if you take what is the, ignore the language for a second, right? So basically it is that you start from a scratch layer which is empty, and then you pull in all these packages and you roll them out wherever you want. Okay, this is just an example. And at the end of it, you get an application that you can sort of run, right? And you can customize things. So basically it's a replacement for your apt get or RPM, install this, install that in particular sequence, and so on. The nice thing about the nice property that this particular thing has is, if you want to sort of do an apt get upgrade of a particular package, it's pretty much a equivalent of this. So there is this concept where you can sort of rebase certain layers. You can report something and replace it with something else, and that's your new application. And each of these layers you can sort of enforce the rules about your SBOMs and things like that. So this ties in very nicely with the OCI story in terms of a workflow. Anyway, this is something that I want to bring to attention to this group.
Does Homebrew use OCI in any kind of unusual way, or do they just unpack it? As
No, it is unusual in the sense that it is mostly a package format that they have picked. They get all this content based and all of that stuff, right? So, but at the end of the day, there is a post install step that they have. So when they roll out these packages, they will, because at the end of the day, these are all the tar.gzip layers, right? So they will tar.gzip somewhere, and after the unzipping, they will use their tooling to sort of move things around. A post install step, patch a configuration file, put it in a different location, and so on and so forth. So, so it is not directly compatible in the way that we want to use it. But if, for example, all of your Debian or RPM packages get pushed as OCI layers, fully installed OCI layers, and all you need to do is just roll them out, then you have your application ready with the property that you can do things like this. And tying back to the artifact search thing, because each layer has its own metadata, because they're all independent images sort of. So right, so then you can query a lot of things directly on those images.
Yeah, this is just it's just a different approach. I mean, they originally got engaged because they were trying to figure out, they're the typical one where they've got a new artifact type. Do they need to create their own package manager? We started talking to them around the OCI artifacts. They were pretty happy with where they was going. There's a little difference approach here where it's based on Scratch and it intermixes what looks like an OCI image as opposed to, truly just kind of making their own artifact level abstraction. But it's a great example of how they can not have to create yet another package manager.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've seen that in other places where if you want to include metadata, you just use a file system and you just have people extract and load up the file system. That's, I think Operator Framework does that.
Yep. The challenge is when you try to make it look like a container image, then it just makes everything confused because it's basically everything's a file without an extension. You have to guess at what it is. So, but anyway, we're kind of, I'm not sure how we got on this tangent other than, are we trying to look at how they're using it as an artifact type, as one of the package types?
Yes, exactly. So this is an overlap between yes, they have artifacts, but they have chosen OCI as a transport, I would say, or the format. So that's just it was something curious. So
I mean, and they must put the post install script at a specific location.
that is correct. Yes, that's correct. There is a post install. Yeah, there is a post install script.
So if we just
and Kyle put the comment here, they used to use bin tray. So that's, I just saw that in the meeting chat. Sorry, Josh, you were starting to say something.
I was just saying about the post install script, like that's could be a line in the thing, and it could be just something to just mention so that if somebody else does a post install script, they know and can potentially do it in the same place. We're only going for loose coupling at this point, but
right.
I think that's part of our goals here, is let everybody know what everybody else is doing.
Some of the layering approach that you're showing on the homebrew looks very similar to a lot of the work that the next group has been doing as well.
Sorry, which group, Brandon?
Nix, where they're pushing up the next packages into a container registry, and they're doing it. They've already got the whole concept of a package is built with various dependencies and things were layered up. And so it was just kind of lifting and shifting that into OCI.
Yeah, I just looked up the same thing. I shared the Nix packs.
Well, they've also been working directly with a lot of the people on the Docker side to figure out how best to package this inside of an OCI artifact in one way or another, image of some kind. And so they're using it as a more efficient way to ship an image. effectively. It is a real container image at that point, but the layers are a little different.
That's
Yeah,
what
maybe it's a. Yeah, sorry, Josh, go ahead.
I was just say that's exactly what we want to kind of capture somehow. So the nuances.
DLL hell gets referenced again. It's interesting. Just staring that right in the middle of the screen there.
Yeah, that's why the homebrew kind of caught my attention, because I know Nix has focused a whole lot on worrying about individual library level dependencies and that sort of stuff. And they build it out as very much this package depends on that package depends on other packages. And so you don't ever have someone that just swaps something out under you. If someone swaps out something out under you, you're rebuilding everything on top of it.
Yeah.
This, I mean, it's all Flatpak and things like that are also all OCI, right? I mean, maybe we need a chart. Looking at the chart that you showed before, Ram, maybe we need one dedicated just to the OCI packagers. Like maybe even before we start talking PyPI and NPM, you know, we need to track, you know, here there's Carvel, OCI, but maybe we also need Brew and Nix and Flatpak. Maybe we should focus on the OCI folks. Would that, Brandon, I guess, would that be useful?
I think it's definitely useful. What I think one of the things that would be interesting is, and we've talked about this, but I don't know whether I was at IETF at the same time that KubeCon was going on, so I didn't get a chance to sync up with what was going on there. Did you guys get any conversations going with some of the package managers to kind of, so it's more important to them than us kind of thing? Like, do they see interest? And not necessarily, and remember, I want to be really, I'll continue to repeat this. It's not to try to get them to switch over to OCI. They've already got one. Our real goal is, please no more. You know, for instance, Nix not trying to create yet another package manager, use the ones that are there. Are they interested in helping collaborate on what generalized package manager requirements are so that we can start to implement those uniformly across the various package managers? Was there anybody at KubeCon that was able to engage in those conversations?
Not me. I didn't really have enough conversations about it. I don't know, Ram, did you?
I did reach out to a few folks in NPM and all of these places, right? So there is some interest. I would say people are not really aware of this effort. I think that's where it is at. That's the number one thing. So the once people awareness increases, and the next question is, what is it that you guys are actually trying to achieve? So that is one thing that you have to summarize very clearly. It has to be something concrete. So if it is concrete, then people will say, okay, this is something concrete, and we can work towards that. So right now we are still at I would say at a research phase, but I think we should quickly move to, hey, Cargo, will you do this specific thing? So that kind of involvement, right? So that is what we should get to very soon. And one of the things in OCI is, sorry.
No, go ahead, Rob. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. For example, one of the things I can ask in OCI communities, are you guys interested in this such thing? So that is something really concrete that I can ask. In what form it takes, yes, we'll come back to this and say this is the form it must take. But are you willing to engage on that? So that is the question I can ask. It's a concrete question to ask. That's all right. Steve, go ahead.
Shoot. Never mind. I lost the thought.
I'll answer a question on the OCI side, which is that I feel like there's been a kind of a quasi question in there a little bit of how should we do this? Should we do this? Can we do this? If we start going cross repository, you hit auth challenges. We'd like to be able to solve it, but it gets very complicated on the auth side to go cross repository just the way things have been historically set up. if we're within a single repository, I think there is a lot of interest in revamping the tag listing interface. And so I think there's an opportunity to start getting some requests into that tag listing and saying, not only do we want to return back maybe untag manifest, maybe we want to pull up the full descriptor so we know what the media type in the digest is, not just a string of a tag, but maybe we need some other metadata we want to be able to pull up that would be useful for people that are looking to inspect a whole bunch of different artifacts in there that might be mixed in with other content.
Yeah, I think the problem with, going to the OC artifact specific areas, when you're mixing content in a single repo, it kind of gets confusing because a single repo is supposed to represent a single thing. It's the version history and the platform pivots of that single thing. That's been the historic thing. To try to put multiple artifacts in the same repo because we don't want to do cross repo things feels very broken. And I still don't understand. I understand the permission boundaries. That's the appropriate, that is what it should be. But a Helm chart references multiple images from multiple repos. The assumption is that a client that wants to be able to get content from multiple repos has permissions. And if they don't, then they need to get them. That's part of the model. So I've never understood why that is a limitation. I don't know if this is the right place to have that debate. When we start thinking we should stuff it, lots of different content in the same repo because we don't want to deal with auth, that to me is throwing out, that's avoiding a conversation that should be had and creating a junk drawer instead of being well organized.
So put a little more context around it, which when I think of like the search in the Debian package manager, you might have nothing but certain Debian packages within a certain OCI repo, but the way they need to query which package they want to pull isn't just with a short string. They need more detailed than just a short string. They've got a lot of other information they need to know to figure out which artifact they want to pull from within that list of artifacts they've got.
That makes total sense. And whether we go to the extent of the UOR stuff or we do things with annotations, we definitely want to be able to find, like in the skit space, we kind of think about this, there's opaque and non-opaque payloads, right? There, you want stuff in the header that is generic that anybody should be able to find. And then there's opaque payloads that are, specific to the content, right? It's, if you think about the way you work with a file system, there's certain attributes that every file supports. Read only, permissions, maybe there's an icon associated with it. There's compactness, what do you call it? There's a certain level of system level attributes that are on it. And then if you want to understand the PDF format, you have to know how to read that PDF format. That's what I'm referring to, opaque payloads. Those are content specific. Annotations is a great way to do that in the OCI space, because those are transparent, those are non-opaque. And if that's a way that gets used, great. Or maybe it's another layer that's a JSON layer or whatever the formatting of the data is, that we say this is a well-defined format that you can define things more than just, because annotations, they're single strings. You can't really create a structure in it without getting weird. But my point is that there is a place to have metadata about things that can be generically searched. And then there is the actual content that we should not try to generalize, because that kind of defeats the point of having specific content types.
Yeah, the challenge we'll run into on the OCI side from the debates we've been having lately is that depending on which registry you talk to, some of them really don't want to get into pulling up information from individual manifest into some kind of general listing interface. They don't want to do that processing on the registry, and they don't want to get into that level of inspecting all the content and then coming up and giving you some kind of generalized, metadata on top of it all. They're pushing in the direction of, if that's going to happen, that needs to be managed by the clients, of them pushing that data up as they make changes, and then they're fully responsible for whatever that current state of the metadata is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's an evolve or die conversation. I think there should, some registries want to step up and demonstrate. And Ram, this is like, a perfect example for you to be able to do with your project and the ZOP projects, is to show the value. And if there's enough value, customers will ask for it. And, I think registry operators are doing what customers are asking for. And if we can demonstrate value, then great. The client side stuff that gets back to this conversation you and I tend to have, is this balance between client server kind of scenarios. And both are valuable, but I just think doing server side processing for some of this stuff is really, it's key, right? You don't want to download all of everything, especially when you start going cross repos just to do client side querying.
It's not that they want you to download everything, it's that they want you to be the one that's managing whatever that metadata index of all the content is. And so as a client pushes a new artifact, they want you to be the one that updates that index yourself, not having the server maintain it. And so doing that, it's not pretty, it's not fun. On the flip side, I understand a little bit of their concern, which is that people can put anything and everything into annotations. And so they don't want to be responsible for an unlimited database on content, because there's no limit to how many manifests you can push. There's no limit to how many annotations per manifest you can push. And there's no real limit. Right? There's kind of a soft limit to the size of any individual annotation. So they're looking at scalability questions when they get into some of these mega registries.
Yeah, I think there's two categories there, and this does apply to all package managers. So I don't feel like we're doing just an OCI conversation. There's public package managers where that somebody has to pay the bill. And that's a very classic problem. And then there's private ones where the customers are paying for their own usage. They pay for their storage. And if there's some compute related to that indexing, that's just part of the basic cost that somebody pays. I think the constraints, because we went down the annotation one in the single name value pairs without being able to correlate, I actually think that's too limited. I was hopeful, but the more we went down that path, it became too limited. So I do think you need some kind of data structure, whether that's in the manifest or it's a well-defined layer in the manifest. Like the config object is a specialized one in OCI images that is a well-known structure that you can query, and people do, right? A lot of registries show whether it's a Linux or Windows image and other platform variations and so forth. So they do parse that and they index that and they show it. Maybe there's another layer type that is well known, that it's OCI artifact metadata layer, and it is, we decide it's JSON, it's CBOR, it's something that can be compact and easily parsed, and that is the indexing format. And if anybody wants to add indexing information, just like they were doing with config, they can do it with this other well-defined but open structured thing that can be indexed. And maybe that's an experiment to do, because that could contain the version information, version range information. They contain forward dependencies. Hey, this one's out of end of life, but here's the new version you might want to look at. There's a couple of ways to think about that. And again, it's not specific to OCI. NPM, NuGet, PyPy, all of these have that same kind of metadata need. So being able to define that in a way as part of an artifacts working group and say, hey, what if all of these package managers had this type of file? Would this be helpful to be able to do these generic search things that we want to be able to do to figure out which is the content I care about?
I see there's, I see there's three solutions to this that you guys are bouncing back and forth between. There's the extreme solution of the client does everything, right? Then there's the other side, the server does a whole pile of work, right? The full database on the server side, right? But there's a model in the middle where maybe the server does not process queries, but it does provide the index so that the client can process the queries. So when Brandon was talking about, these registry guys, they don't want to do anything. They want you to do basically what I was hearing was they want you to do the Helm model, right? Where like you build your index and you upload it. And then, well, that doesn't work. It just plain doesn't work because multiple clients breaks that. It just doesn't work, right? The registry has to be the point of synchronization for the index, or the index will become out of sync. So if you want to think about it from what can the registry bare minimum do to support these guys, it might be that there's that middle ground that works. It has to be able to build this index of which you can download with one GET request. And then you could go hammer it with whatever complex queries you might want to do as a client. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
No, that's great. Ram, what do you think about using Zot for this kind of thing? Like if there was a prototype to do, because the beautiful thing about Zot is I don't need to be committed to any one of the registries. I spin up a fork of it. I run it locally. I experiment. If I don't like it, I change it. None of us like it. We throw it out. There's no long-term support, in a production hosted, cloud registry. And if and when we get to the point where we actually love the implementation, then there's the compelling event that, hey, registry operators, there is something here for you to start thinking about implementing, or we can show through talks and conversations that get customers like, oh man, that is awesome. And if they start standing up Zot in multiple places, that's a compelling driver for the registry operators to kind of feel like the competitive edge to have to do it too.
We are totally open to that. So the couple of things that Zot already does is through the GraphQL interface, right? The search, it's a search extension in OCI. It's an OCI extension, the search. So it can do things like you can search by repo name, you can search by you can also search by hashes. So if you give a full SHA hash, it will take you to the right image and layer where that image is, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of things that it does. And we are absolutely open to adding anything of interest. And we are, since our install footprint is not huge, right? It is not a Zot hub. There is a zothub.io, by the way, but it is we don't have a huge cloud registry, so to speak, right? So yes, we can make changes.
Awesome. And when I say changes, I wouldn't suggest putting it in your main branch, right? Like keep a stable thing for your customers, and then here's the experimental fork.
Yes, we can do that. So we can actually, we can start an experimental features branch, make things land there, and we can cut releases out of there. Not a problem.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, what goes in there? We had the conversation. I think that kind of goes back to inventorying the various package managers. What are the various package managers doing that customers love? And what are those things that we want to generalize so that we demonstrate the value across the various package managers? Just look at the link that Ram just put. Oh, yeah.
I'm just promoting it. I mean, just making sure. Okay. So Brandon, you had something? Sorry.
I was going to take it a bit different direction. So if anybody has an answer to Steve's question, go ahead.
No, I mean, if folks have some interesting use cases, absolutely file issues and we will get to them.
So I wanted to take it back to Kyle's comment earlier, which was along the lines of there are two extremes. Client does everything, server does everything. And maybe there's a middle ground where the server just gives you an index. And to add a little bit more color to what's going on over in the OCI right now, which is in the refers API response that we're generating, that is an index that pretty much just gets thrown down to the clients, and clients can sort through there and figure out what they want to do. And there's even pushback on some of that depending on the registry operator, where they don't want to generate that server side. They want that to be generated on the client side, just because generating that index requires looking through a whole bunch of manifests within the repo and doing some kind of server side state and any other challenges along those lines. So just just kind of give you an awareness of what's going on over there. And so I see that exact same fight going out if we went down the path of trying to have the server-side index generation for what we're looking at for the artifact. It's ongoing, so I don't know how it's going to end up, and however it ends up, we might just end up using it as a template for going forward.
And the fallback for the refers API is the tag, which is the client managed index.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that is the sorry, yeah, and that is the path. That fallback is, I think, people want to move away from this tag based management. You want something more formal, and that's what the OCR reference was all about. But anyway, that still needs to conclude. It's a controversial topic, and that's what you get with the building consensus. Okay, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, I was going to say to bubble back up. What do we want to do for some next steps here?
I would say so. See, the whole point of this conformance thing that I put in as the code was as to demonstrate whether these package managers even have the capability of what we are trying to achieve in that table. Right, so I just put the table as the criterion, and then we sort of demonstrate in reality what this package manager are up to. So the next step, I think, is do we want to? So this is in terms of functionality, right? So the next step, I think, is do we want to sort of engage with all these package managers and say that are you willing to implement some sort of a standardized query? So for example, a CNCF query, that kind of thing, and then ask them that is it possible for you to sort of amend their search capability to respond to these queries in a format that we want. See.
Yeah, I think getting their involvement is huge. Understanding what works for them, because it's not just convincing them to add something new. Like, are they seeing a need for this? And if not, that's good data. If not, it's because they already intrinsically support something about it. That's kind of what that graph was supposed to capture, is how do they cover certain use cases? Clearly a lot of the package managers have dependencies, this cross repo thing that we talk about, right? Like package A depends on package B. How do they do that? How does well, what's interesting also is to think about how do they do it is to some extent where I do agree with Brandon's point of it's a client state. Individual packages on a server, just like individual images, should be tracked individually. I never expected a registry to keep track of the 4 images that a Helm chart may reference, right? That's not a scenario per se. That's like, hey, here's 4 images. Just so happens somebody built a Helm chart that references those 4. If I delete one of those images or update one of those images, like that's up to the Helm chart to reference them. In fact, a Helm chart that references 4 images may not even get them from the same registry. They might get some of the images from one registry and some of the images from a different registry for multiple scenarios. Different than something that does have a cross dependency, and this is the signatures that are for an image, or the SBOM for any package manager, whether it be an image or otherwise. Those do make sense to be in the same repo because it's supporting evidence for a thing. And if I delete the parent, I want the children to go with it. I don't want the children to be left as zombies. What is the equivalent in those other package managers? It's not like all these package managers are shipping SBOMs with their things or the VEX reports. Those are new scenarios. What are they thinking about how they solve those? So I'd love to kind of think about that. That is back to your point, Ram, of what can we bring to them and not just ask them for information. It's like, hey, how are you thinking about shipping your SBOM, your VEX, your scan result for your particular, for the packages that are in your package manager today? Are you not thinking about it and leaving it for somebody else to do externally? Are you thinking about adding them, alongside the packages, so that users don't have to guess where do they go to get that supporting content?
Right. So I think, so that actually brings to the point that when you talk to these package managers, they're mostly concerned with being consistent within themselves, within their ecosystem. But but we are going to them saying, look, we have this problem where we build a lot of stuff across ecosystems. Therefore, this is a problem that we face, and this is really at the client side, right? Not the from the client point of view, where we are building these things. This is a problem we face, and can you help us with it? So if we have a standardized way across this, then we can consume this better and achieve better security, provenance, and all of that stuff. So I think that is the real ask from our community to those the package managers.
Makes sense. So I think, how do we get them? How do we get more engagement with them?
Okay, I think that's something we have to work on. So let's pick a few package managers that that folks really use, right? At least in the CNCF ecosystem, and then let's see if we can engage at least a couple of them, and then once we have the foot in the door, we can start opening the door wider.
In terms of your question, Steve, how do we get them to engage with us? I would say they need to see a value add from whatever we're doing. And so it's not us going to them saying, hey, give us a change because we need it. It's, can we give you a change that you have been looking for and couldn't find anywhere else?
Yeah, it's the WIFM. What's in it for me? Why should I care? Absolutely. So do we want to just take, I don't know if everybody else was at KubeCon and was able to participate in the meeting. Is there do we want to do a recap of what you guys discussed there, or how that went?
Was there a meeting there?
Or I thought you guys did have a meeting. I thought you guys did organize something.
There was, I don't think there was.
If you don't know, then no.
No,
I thought you organized it.
We did have a tag meeting, but we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't really do it for this group. Were you all there? I guess I should have asked. I'm sorry. We could have a meeting for you all in Paris if you want. I can help you get that going.
I watched the recording of the tag meeting.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there was really no representatives from Artifacts there. Although Sarah Christoph is starting to get interested. She does CNAB. She talked about Porter a little bit.
Okay, that's a quick recap then.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I wasn't sure. All right.
So yes, if you have nothing more to discuss, and so we have this new person join us, Sunil. Can you tell us what you do, what your interest in this group is?
Oh, hi. Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunil, based in San Francisco Bay Area. So I work for 11 Cell, formerly Anthem, in the digital org. And I've been part of the CNCF, other tag groups like Tag Security and also Zero Trust, being a contributor to SPIFFE Spec, work with Andy Block and a few others like Frederick. So this got me interested because we do a lot of package management for our binaries and deployment in cloud native, and also work with Helm charts and other package managers. So this got me interested, and I thought I'll join as well, and then see what's happening here. So I'm glad to see all the conversations which is happening. So that's where I am.
Welcome to the group.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. So I added some notes to our document. Feel free to amend that if you think something is missing.
I joined late, Ron, and Zoom doesn't keep the history, so I didn't. Can you paste the link again?
Yes, I will.
Thanks.
We have action items for next time, and when is next time?
Yeah, I think next time was December 22nd, and that's getting awfully close to Santa Slate. It actually is the week prior. Are people around?
It's the Friday prior to
Yeah.
Christmas, which is on Monday. So I suspect people will be off that day, at least some.
Yeah, it's unlikely is what I would say.
Right,
I
so
think
we'll just-
holiday season it's a rounding error. A few days here, a few days there. So.
I think everybody's ready for a break where it's like not a COVID break, but like, you know, I feel like we're getting on the other side of that now.
So
Okay,
if we skip
so-
next,
Yeah.
if we skip the next meeting, then that would mean January 12th would be our.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jan 12th.
Do we have action items we want to see done between then and now?
I mean, I'm still struggling on this. If we're not articulating the value for other package managers to come join, and we're having this conversation around searching metadata, which is one of the things that we started with the working group, was that was one of the big gaps for things like Helm and others, is they're struggling to find what is the next piece after the Helm index thing? Because the Helm index thing, to Kyle's point, didn't scale. But there's still gaps. So we solved the Helm index problem partially because you can get things on tags and you can, get them as an artifact. What we didn't solve was how do you do the version ranges and others. And Andrew has a demo of it. Unfortunately, he's juggling trains and dealing with strikes in Europe right now. So that's why he couldn't join. Because he has something he prototyped and wanted to show. I'm just, we can either go back and prototype some of the things ourselves using Zot on how we can do some searching and show how we can do some metadata, authoring and searching, and then prove that with Zot and say like, hey, is this valuable? That's one. That's on the search subtopic. There's the other one with the related artifacts, like how should people distribute SBOMs and vexes and scan results and whatever the next, supporting evidence artifact that comes out that is for a particular thing, kind of like the reference type thing. I'd love to hear from the other package managers on how they're thinking about it. And maybe they're not. They're saying, look, not my problem. I'm an NPM package manager, and NuGet an SBOM is not an NPM package. Like, go find a SBOM registry. That is an answer. I don't know if that's their opinion. I know that is an answer. I don't think it's a good one, but that's my personal opinion. Being able to think about how these different package managers are thinking about the reference types specific to their package is one conversation to have with folks to get them to, hey, how are you thinking about this? Those are the two things that come to mind to me. And if we can articulate that, then we could either go to the various package managers and say, hey, what do you think about this? And like, look, I'm starving. I got 2 people. I'm just trying to keep my service alive. Like, don't bother me with extra shit.
That is what is likely going to happen. But at the same time, you may also want to say that if your package, if you want your packages to be used mixed with other packages so that you build a bigger application, then that is the value, right? So if they want to promote their packages in that way, then it is value for them. So the
But
thing is,
sometimes you
we
have to
cannot.
build it for them. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're saying that, hey, the reason we didn't pick your package is because you are not able to do so and so things. That's why we had to go find something else. So
Right.
if that comes out as value, then that is one way to look at it. Sorry, Steve, continue.
No, you did. You said exactly what I was going to say. So this is where if we can demonstrate it with Zot, so kind of like build it and they will come, because sometimes you have to see it. You can't see it abstractly. Like I need to see an actual demo of something like, oh, now I get it. Yeah, I should add that too. And that's what I'm wondering if folks are interested in building that into Zot as a, an experimental thing of, hey, here's how we can do it with registries, OCR registries. Either use that, but we'd also like to see you add this capability to NPM, NuGet, PyPy, blah, 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 every other package manager. Like this is not, I personally am not trying to convince everybody to move to one registry type. It's let's just not build new ones. But here's the functionality we'd like to see across the various package managers. And let's demonstrate that with Zot. And if it's valuable, it'll take off. If it's not, it was an interesting experiment. Kyle.
I was thinking, what if we were going down the path you're talking about, Steve? What if we were to hyper focus ourselves on the Helm chart use case? Like just give it those guys. They seem to at least recognize that a problem exists, right? That's at least we got our foot in the door there. And maybe we can think just think about their case. Let's make their case awesome and use Zot to do so. And we have to build out both sides slightly, right? We got to build out a little bit into Helm and a little bit into, so the repo searching functionality actually works, right? And hits Zot the appropriate way. But that might be a small win.
That'd be huge. I was pinging Andrew because he was poking back and forth a little bit on Slack. I don't know what you just teased up exactly what he wants to show. So I don't actually know how he built it. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet. So why don't we back to the agenda for January? Let's give Andrew and by proxy Alex a chance to demo what they've been doing specific to Helm, and let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. Okay. Anyway. All right. I'm getting Andrew's poking while he's on the train. So I guess with that, is it an early Happy New Year, Christmas comment for folks here? If this is our last meeting of the year.
Yes. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
It's the first time I've said that for the end of this year. So
happy holidays.
We'll give a little celebration.
Nice.
Happy holidays to everyone, and I feel bad that I joined at in the last meeting of the year, but hope to be in the new year, participate more in the new year.
We definitely welcome you. Josh or Ron, who owns the new invite? Because it sounds like you guys said the old one expired or something.
Probably have to re-up everything.
Yeah, okay. I usually just go to the Zoom link and I join, so that's usually how it goes.
I like the sound of your frustrations, like, oh, calendar invites. I don't want to deal with that.
I'll put them all in that, community site because I can do the whole year's worth at once, and then we'll ask the upstream to get them into the CNCF calendar so you can copy them from there.
It's at least on the CNCF calendar for me.
Are you still able to, and did you have one today?
I mean, I've got my own that I always copy from, so I'm always depending on my own calendar, but when I pull up the CNCF calendar, I see it there.
Okay, so it's still happening today. So maybe it's still there.
So just a bunch of us didn't see it. It was just coincidental. Josh said, yeah, it's today. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Second
to drop. If it's already
Yeah.
there, great. I don't know why it's not showing up for me, but it sounded like it wasn't just me. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll double check before next time. Happy
Sunil,
holidays.
we hope to see you next year. Thank you for coming.
Sure, yeah, likewise. I might have seen some of you folks at KubeCon Amsterdam earlier this year.
With that, I'll see everybody later. Thanks.
Right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.